me see if it works this time. There we go. There we go. I sent the invite to join. Oh, okay. Everybody came back in. What's up? Okay. There we go. All right. So I sent the request, so it should go through this time. So let's see if it works. Oh my goodness. I know I just did it. Okay. Oh, OMG. Okay. Cancel. Man, what? This is okay. I don't like this. Nah, it's not. Because look, I am fully prepared. You know what I'm saying for this. I wasn't prepared for the technical stuff now. Um, Dang man, it's got to be something with your phone because it doesn't have like a request on your end that you could just request to join. It's got to have an option for you. Ladies and gentlemen, we gonna get this right. I promise we gonna get this right. But that's weird because okay, we'll try it again. Oh my goodness. All right. I don't know. See, when they want you to go live, you can't. I see the request to join. Yeah. See, it has to be. I agree that it has to be something. Uh, because like now on my end, it won't even allow me. Okay. Yeah. Do that, Michelle. Restart your phone because it's got to be something dealing with your phone. Because yeah, this is crazy. Because I've never had an issue, and I don't even go live. Oh, there we go. Bam. There it is. See, we was not gonna give up. Okay, we was not gonna give up. Good afternoon. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you?
Oh, I'm very blessed on a Monday to be sober and start the week off right as
Right.
far as sobriety. So, welcome to 12 Faces of Sober Speaks podcast. I am your host, Kenneth Watson, and today's guest is Michelle.
That's
Despite the
good.
technical difficulties we had, we were going to have this interview. So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Michelle, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to come on, have a conversation, be able to laugh. If you cry, cry. But oh, I'm sorry, that has to be declined. But go ahead. But yeah, so once again, welcome to the show. You can go ahead and introduce yourself. Let everybody know where you're residing. Not necessarily like exactly, but just where parts of the country you are and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, you guys. Thank you so much for the patience while we figured out this technology. One of my teachers has taught me is like the enemy will throw everything he has in his toolbox at you, but he can't stop you himself. But his objective is to get you to stop you. Nothing's
Mm-hmm.
going to stop us today. So, my name's Michelle Curiel. I go by the Sobriety Playbook. Um, I'm currently living in Texas and I've been sober for 3 years. I'm just so incredibly grateful. So yeah, I had linked up with 12 Faces of Sober about a month ago, started looking at his content, started to speak to him through his DMs and everything. And it's just amazing to be able to meet so many people that are like on the same path, trying to do as much as we possibly can to spread some hope to people that are stuck in addiction. Because I was in active alcoholism and addiction for 25 years, and my life was falling apart. So I'm just so happy to be on this live with you guys. So thanks for having me.
Hello, Talon. She's out in Canada. Like I said, I got a lot of love for people in Canada, so I definitely want to shout out those. But before we get into it, make sure to give us both a follow. We put together good content, so if you're not following both of us respectively, make sure that you do, if not now, but before the podcast is over. And during the interview, you guys can ask questions, comment. So like I said, we want this not only to be an interview, but to be as interactive as possible. And so let's rewind the hands of time. Let's talk about how it was for you growing up. You know, what were some of the things that you saw and witnessed in the home? What, did you have did you come from a background of family members who drank, or was that something that you picked up later on in life?
Yeah, those are really good questions. So for me, I grew up with a family. My parents, they're still married today. I grew up with two brothers, and my parents were not alcoholics. My mom was able to be a stay-home mom until I was about 15 or 16 years old, so she was present. My dad made enough money to be able to support our family and put me through private school my entire life. With that said, I was always a child that felt very anxious all the time. I had like this spirit of fear within me, always, constantly. I was constantly questioning myself. I did not know how to proceed in life without just being in fear. I've always been a very energetically sensitive being. What I mean by that is I'm highly empathic. So if I go into a crowd of people, I can pick up on other people's thoughts and energy, and it could get extremely overwhelming for me. So even though my parents sent me to the best schools and I had their support, they were not abusive and they loved me so much, I always felt overwhelmed, and it was just, I was scared all the time. There were some things in life that happened at an early age within some of my family members that were going through a lot of trauma and going through a lot of fear, and witnessing people that were really close to me go through certain things. I just wanted to run away from my emotions. I did not want to experience what I was feeling, and I always wanted to run away from those feelings. I didn't like to cry. I didn't like to be emotional. The way that I was taught growing up is like, you don't show your emotions, you don't cry. In school, if you expressed yourself, your emotions were shut down. So at about the age of 15 or so, I met somebody at the time that I started to date that was a drug dealer, and I smoked weed for the first time the summer before high school. Yeah.
Okay.
So when I got high for the first time, I was like, I felt like I wanted to run into the arms of that addiction, because I felt like it blocked my spiritual gifts. Like I didn't have the ability, I no longer had the ability to pick up on other people's emotions. I was able to kind of like space out and zone out and not feel those feelings that were what I was allowing to torment me entire life.
Now, do you think, like, being that, there are some people who are in those religious type situations where it's kind of like it's I'm not gonna say beat into you, but it's like, okay, it's pressured, you know, in terms of the church. And then there are some kids who rebel,
Mhm.
you know, at that age, you know, experimenting with the drinking, experimenting with doing drugs. Were you at that, or was it more or less of the peer pressure because now you're dating someone that's in that lifestyle?
It was kind of like I had always wanted to be accepted by people. Um, I was always like a really good athlete, like a really good student. I always did the right thing. But what I noticed is like I was always alone. I did not get any type of attention being the good girl. So whenever I started to do those quote unquote like rebellious type things, then I started to get attention. And I craved that, you know, just being a human. Like, I think it's natural to want to have friends, to want to have people around you. And after like 15 years of not having any of that, I was like, okay, well, if I can't get attention in a positive manner for being a good student and an amazing athlete and for being a good person and doing good things, then you know what? I'm going to just turn my back on my old life and go the other direction and see how that works. You know, I did have, I felt like there was a lot of programming within the church. There was a lot of things, limited mindsets, a lot of things that they taught us, and a lot of fear that was instilled. The God that I was introduced to was a damning and punishing God. And
Mm,
why would a child that is already fearful and anxious want to go towards that type of higher power? I
mm,
know I didn't, you know, and I felt as a kid like I was being forced to go to these schools and go to church and, you know, be obedient to these nuns and be obedient to these priests and do all the things that they told me to do because I'm a kid. And I felt like I had to submit to whatever it is was given to me. I mean, you know, I was a child. So after like 15 years of doing all the things that I was told to do, I was pissed off. And I was
mm,
like, this isn't working. I got high. It felt good. And I was like, this is the next path that I'm going to. This is what's
mm.
happening.
Now, you mentioned that because it's interesting because you know we both, you know, without revealing our ages, you know, we're the same age. So this is the '90s, and you
Yes.
know it where how was your parents? Did they notice a change in you?
Mm-hmm.
Did, you know, for me it was like, you know, my dad, he worked nights,
Mm-hmm.
so it was like, you know, when I was in high school playing sports, just like you mentioned yourself, is that, you know, I was coming home from these parties, and you know, my mom would be asleep on the couch, my dad's at work, so my mom never knew if I was drinking or smoking because, you know, I would just give her a kiss goodnight at midnight or something, like, all right, mom, I'm home, and that was it. Unless she knew the next morning I was sleeping all day, but she
Mm-hmm.
didn't, you know, really figure that out until I got into college. You know,
Right.
so how was that? You know, how what was the
Yeah.
response from your parents?
So the response from my parents was the first time that I smoked marijuana this summer before high school. I was so
Mm,
ignorant that I smoked weed in my parents' bathroom in the house, dude. So I did not, I mean, I was so naive that I
mm,
didn't realize that smoke like will go through the entire house and fully like hotbox the bathroom and just completely stink up the entire house. It smelled horrible.
mm,
So my dad came home, my mom and dad came home. My dad was banging on the bathroom door and he was like, "Don't you think I know what that smell is?" And I was just mortified.
mm,
I came out of the bathroom and they were yelling at me. My mom uh, told me to come to my room and she was talking to me. She was like ripping the posters, the Kurt Cobain posters off of my
mm,
wall, you know, throwing my homecoming like gifts and my trophies and stuff like everywhere. It looked like a tornado hit it. My parents did not react well
mm,
whatsoever. But the thing that experience taught me in my little teenager mind was, okay, well, you can't smoke, you can't do anything that your parents can smell, so don't ever do that again. So
mm,
I mean, I did it a couple of times, but I never did it in the house. And then that's whenever I started to learn to be more manipulative, and I
mm,
started to do things like cocaine because
mm,
no one can smell that. And honestly, like when I did that, I was like, oh, this feels a lot better.
Mm. At
So
least, at least
at
you
least,
thought it felt better.
right. Like that was the initial thought. That was the
Mhm.
initial reaction that I had.
Okay.
So yeah. Um, over time, it I just became more manipulative, and I started
Mm.
to do things that I never thought that I would do. My parents were always pretty much home and everything, but I was a busy person. I was always in a like basketball practice or something like that. So I just learned to hide things.
Mm.
Yeah.
And the thing about it too is that, ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned, you know, we both grew up in the late '90s, and you know, the drug and alcohol scene, I'm not going to say completely because I wasn't involved with the more illicit or harder stuff, but it was kind of it. A lot of the stuff that's out today definitely wasn't out back then, or if it was different names. And so I completely understand, you know, what Michelle is discussing because, like I said, you know, I didn't partake in doing, you know, I smoked weed in high school and I drank, but I wouldn't do it at home. You know, I was like, all right, you know, I'm not gonna, you know, Friday nights I was gone.
Yeah.
Saturday nights I was gone. You know, like I literally took a travel bag to a friend's house. A friend of mine, it was two sisters, and they literally, their mom nor dad, may he rest in peace, they were never there. So it was like that was the house to really chill, get into everything, sex, all of the above, because there was no parental supervision. So when I came home, it was just okay, I can get a home cooked meal, no fast food. But you know, and I know that, you know, kids face some of the same things, if not worse, of, you know, with what it is, but obviously the fentanyl is what's taking people out currently. Now, you so now here it is, you know, you're experimenting, you're starting to kind of detach from, you know, from family, or doing things that, you know, you may not have done before. So how was it like, you know, now you're, you know, you're getting out of high school, now you're in the real world,
Yeah.
and how was that for yourself in terms of like, you know, when I guess you say when did the addiction actually pick up? You know, you were
Yeah.
experimenting in high school, but when would you say that you know, it actually became a problem?
Yeah, the addiction actually started to become a problem after being out of high school for about 2 years or so. Right after high school, I had moved to Hollywood. I
Mm,
had wanted to be an actress, and I was an aspiring model and doing independent films and doing voiceovers and commercials and things like that. And then eventually, after it not being as successful as I would have imagined, being how competitive it is in California, I chose to come back to San Antonio, which is where I was born. And I had a big resentment against myself for giving up on my dreams so quickly. But I mean, it was expensive to live out there. And it's just financially, I couldn't support myself. I did not know how to. So I came back here a couple of days before September 11th, started working at a restaurant, not realizing that when a person works at a restaurant that it's full of drugs and alcohol and all types of addiction and all types of manipulation and lying and like all just kinds of like really toxic behavior. So that's when my addiction really started to pick up. I met this guy that was a drug dealer, and you know, I wanted to party like every
mm,
single night. I wanted to drink every night. I wanted to do drugs every night after work, but I couldn't get away with it the way that I wanted to because I was living with my parents. So over time, like I started to move a little bit of stuff out of my parents' house into this guy's house, like a little bit over time. Eventually, I was fully moved into this guy's house, and he was selling drugs, and so was I.
mm,
Um, so we were selling cocaine and yeah, the cocaine addiction got really, really out of hand. And the reason why I believe that it got so bad was because we were selling it. I had it at my disposal 24/7. And it's like the money wasn't an issue anymore. So it's like that's not blocking me from being addicted. And after, gosh, after some time, I can't even remember exactly how long it was. Um, we were spending some time like at a cabin in the hill country, and all of us were getting high and doing all the things, getting drunk, shooting guns when we were high and drunk, which is not a good thing. Like just being stupid. Um, my boyfriend's best friend at the time was like, "Do you want me to show you how to make crack?"
Mm.
And I was like, "Yes." I just, because you know how it is when you're doing drugs, it's like the high that you get initially is not the high that you will continually get, and it starts to fade, and it doesn't work the way that it usually did in the past. And no matter how many times you try to do it, you'll never get the same feeling that you did.
Yep.
And so I was like, it's time to make the switch. It's time to like get away from this cocaine and let's try some crack. I had never felt so pulled towards a drug in my life until I started to smoke crack. It was just like a constant need for me to like feel that euphoria every single day. It's like from the time that I woke up in the morning, it was like I need a hit, to whenever I went to sleep, if I went to sleep. So
Yeah, and it's interesting that you say that because I've never done cocaine or crack, but I have seen both of them, and I remember the first time seeing cocaine. I was 12. I won't say who the individual is, but I, a friend of mine, his sister's boyfriend sold it,
yeah.
and I saw it. But more into my adult years, when I was living in Phoenix in 2000, and I think it was 2007, one of the guys in my complex, I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to share it. He was someone who sat on cocaine. And so, and then, somebody picked it up, did whatever with it and stuff. But it was interesting because one time, when I was into playing video games, he, asked me to come over. It was like, all right, come through. I never seen this guy before. They're in the kitchen cooking it up. And that was the one and only time that I've seen it to this day being cooked. And I was like, I don't know for sure if I want to come hang out with this dude, because at that time I was early into my addiction as far as drinking. So it was like, this house can be raided at any given time. You know what I'm saying? And not, knowing exactly what he was into, because he was dealing with kilos. And I'm just a 26-year-old naive guy that just wanted to hang out and not knowing that I'm around some serious heavy stuff. Now, did you mentioned being around it? Where was there ever a time where you felt like fearful, like, okay, at any time, like as I just mentioned, we could be raided, I can experience jail time or any of that, or actually be robbed? Because they do rob the plugs, out here in the game. So I'm just curious to know about that.
No fear. The thing is, like, we had things delivered to us. We didn't have to go out and pick up anything. We didn't have to travel to do anything. Everything was brought to us.
I think you adjusted your volume.
Oh,
Okay.
can you hear me now?
Mm-mm. It's there. You go.
How about now?
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
I'm not sure what happened, but no, there's just, I honestly, like, the drugs took away that fear. It took away the anxiety. I didn't care.
Mm,
I didn't care.
okay. Yeah, you gotta have to adjust your mic. I don't know what you got. Is your phone hooked up to a microphone?
It's not. It's just my
Okay.
iPhone.
Okay, see, that's why the iPhones they a little suspect. Hey, what's going on, Ty? Another person from Canada showing love. I appreciate it. She's very talented too. Please give her a follow, Ty the Poetess.
I
She
will
is a very talented author. Needless to say, yes, I've had her on my podcast.
perfect.
Um,
Yeah, I'll definitely go through this live and follow everyone that's on here after this.
okay. Now, so how long did this go on? How long, like, now you're going from one. Oh, it says the volume is still low. Can you speak again? Just speak and see.
Yeah, can you guys hear me? How about now? Mic check, 1, 2. How about now?
Okay. All right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, whatever you do, don't adjust your phone. Just
I'm not.
keep it where it's at.
Okay.
But so now you're you know starting off with one drug, now you're going to something else. So how is life, you know, now? What are some of the mishaps and some of the things that you're finding yourself into now?
What's interesting is like I tell a lot of people on podcasts that I'm on, I'm like, dude, like my memory doesn't really start till about 3 years ago. Like it's really shady and
Hmm.
sketchy. Um, Going back to like the crack and the cocaine days, that was like 20 years ago.
Okay.
I just remember there was a lot of fights. There was a lot of partying. There was a lot of carpet farming, like
Hmm.
looking for like drugs like through the carpet. There was just a lot of sadness and a lot of frustration. Things for me during this phase of my addiction, uh like the cocaine addiction, what I noticed is like my addictions went in phases of 7 years. So my addiction to cocaine and to crack was a 7 year phase. Now when I shifted from coke and crack to heroin, that is when those are some of the things that are like really clear to me. That is when a lot of pain started happening. That is whenever I started to experience a lot of chaos in my life. Um, I also noticed that like when I shifted from like one addiction, I shifted to like another guy. So I went from like 7 years of addiction to cocaine and crack to being with this guy to going to the next phase, which was heroin, and being with somebody else for another 7 years.
Mm.
So heroin was crazy. Like I eventually lost everything.
Mm.
Um, I started hanging out with like escorts and stuff like that. Like I was never an escort because I was always the type of person who was like, I'm never going to sell myself. I'm never going to do anything sexual or anything like that uh, to get drugs. But I started to get to the point where I started to recruit other women that would be willing to do things like that,
Mm.
which is really messed up. Um, the lie that I told myself is like, if they're willing to do it, there's nothing wrong with what I'm doing, you
Mm.
know? And my thought was like, okay, well, if we have security and these guys are making sure that nothing happens that they don't want to happen, then it's fine. Because what we taught these women was to manipulate the dudes before anything happened and basically rob them, and then we'd leave.
Mm.
So it's like nothing sexual would happen, but it's like the situations that I would put myself in were just really messed up.
Mm.
I'm lucky to be alive because like the anger that this would bring up in the men that we were manipulating or whatever, like I'm lucky they none of them ever like held a gun to any of us or did anything other than just freak out and raise their voice, you know?
Mm.
But yeah, like I had got to the point where me and my boyfriend were constantly like driving around with drugs on us, driving around to trap houses, spending time in trap houses. Um, that's whenever I started to steal a lot. Like I would go into stores. The thing is like I used the way that I looked, like people always thought that I was a pretty innocent person and I could get away with a lot of stuff. And I used that to my advantage. So I'd go into stores, steal all the stuff, then I'd resell it, and then I would buy more drugs. So, but it had got to the point at the end of that heroin addiction where it was like, I couldn't really hide it because my skin started to get like gray and I started to look sick and like I started to be like a little fiend, you know? It was like I could no longer, like, my face couldn't lie anymore.
Mm.
So
Dang. So, you know, it sounds like, you know, you was definitely living a fast life.
yeah.
Now, was there ever any types of run-ins with the law? I mean, it's only so much, you know, so many times where you can get away with it.
Mm-hmm.
When it's that one time that, you know, you're going to run into some type of problem. So did you ever experience any of that?
I did not.
Mm.
Didn't.
You better knock on wood. You know,
Yeah.
that's a blessing.
There's
Truly a
been,
blessing.
yeah, there's been times when I had got pulled over
Hmm.
and I had stuff on me and got a warning.
Mm.
There's been times when like they've looked at me like a little suspect, but then they're like, nah, you know. But no, like I've never been arrested. I've never been to jail.
Mm. Yeah, see that. I will say that, you know, and I don't have a problem with it now sharing it. But, you know, I did, you know, I spent a night in jail in 2008 for criminal damage, you know, getting drunk and punching the door. But that was ever the only issue. Yes, I probably should have had about 50 to 100 DUIs as much as I, you know, drove intoxicated because I had to get home at some point, you know, and usually somebody would piss me off and I would get behind the wheel. But I don't know. It definitely was somebody who was looking out for me. Higher power, God,
Right.
Allah, Buddha. You know, it didn't matter who it was. My guardian angel was there, and a lot of people don't have that opportunity. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why, you know, I do ask that question because I feel like, you know, hey, if you did, then you know, share it, and if you didn't,
Mm-hmm.
let you know, also share that too, because like I said, not everybody got lucky. I mean, we got lucky. You know what I'm saying? So, but not but so when did you, you know, not like I said, you've, I guess you could say I can use a Tupac metaphor that was it the 7 day theory? So you had a 7 year theory. So when did you, you know, get to those points where it was like, all right, okay, I know I have a problem. You know, I'm seeing things that I probably shouldn't be seeing. I'm doing things that I know that I shouldn't be doing. But when was it to where it was like, all right, well, I need to get some type of help? Like, what
Yeah.
was your rock bottom?
I would say my rock bottom was a little bit like after the whole heroin 7 year thing. I started to do meth, and I had started out smoking meth and then shooting up meth. And
Mm,
after like a month and a half of that, I had sold the keys to my apartment to a drug dealer. I sold the keys to my vehicle to a drug dealer, and I ended up living on a trap house floor. So I remember one day waking up and I was using someone else's vehicle at the time. That vehicle didn't start.
mm,
Now, the place where I was staying, there really weren't any buses, and I was not even in any type of condition to walk from where I was to a bus stop because I was so dope sick. And but I felt trapped because I needed drugs and I
mm,
didn't know what to do. So after a long time, and I don't know exactly how long, of not talking to my parents, I send my dad a text. I'm like, dude, like this car won't start. I need your help. Thinking that he's just going to help me start it and I can get on with my life.
mhm,
When in reality, my mom showed up to pick me up. And for some reason or another, I confessed everything that had been happening.
mm,
And she was like, you need help. and I knew I needed help, and I didn't want help, but I knew I needed it. And I was like, whatever, like, I can't do this anymore. This is just way too overwhelming for me. I can't stand this life anymore. Like, I just wanted to die. But, you know, I had tried to commit suicide like so many times and I couldn't die. And I'd wake up on the floor and cursing at God, like, why the hell am I still here? So I couldn't live my life. I couldn't die. I felt stuck. And so I was like, okay, let me try to stop. So I went to live with my parents for a little while. For a couple of days, my mom and dad were so gracious enough to do like the legwork to try to find me a rehab to get into. And they finally got me into one, but unfortunately, they couldn't find a place until I was done detoxing. So I was stuck at my parents' house. They wouldn't let me sleep on a bed. They only let me sleep on a couch. And I was detoxing there in that house, just like felt like I was dying.
Mm.
So
Yeah, that's interesting. You share that because with this last time I had to get sober, they told me, it was like, you cannot come into treatment intoxicated. I came in there drunk. I mean, me and my nephew, big shouts out to my nephew. He, you know, I think we played poker the night before I got sober and drank a lot and ate pizza. And so it was like, but yeah, so it was, but I get it though. That is important that, you know, that you did, you know, go to your, you know, you went to your parents. I mean, that the same thing with me is that, you know, I left, Phoenix, Arizona, called my mom, was like, hey, I need a place to stay. It was more or less a place to stay, but she told me, it's like, if you stay here, you got to go to rehab, you
yeah,
know, and, but a lot of people out there don't have that option of the family, or they're too far
right.
away from family, or they don't have the funds to get on a bus or get on a plane or get in the car and drive. Cause I knew that I wasn't able or in the right mindset to drive from Phoenix to Minnesota.
Yeah.
So it definitely was, you know, something, but I just wanted to point that out, that was good. I mean, even though I know you were coming down, but at least you were in the presence of your family. You know,
Right.
that to me is real cool. So how was it? Because I know we had a conversation about this last week. So how was it like actually going to rehab, or was that the only stint that you had, or did you have multiple stints in rehab?
Um, that was my first rehab of 13.
Okay.
So that experience, uh, dude, like I was so, I was given like so many gifts, like so many opportunities to get sober. This place was like in the hills in California where there's
Mm,
like a pool, and like they would take us to going walking in the hills and hiking and to the beach and all these things. Um, Prior to us like experiencing like the nice things like in California, I had arrived to
excuse me.
I had arrived in California, and when I got off the plane, I went directly to the bar and got drunk, and then I went outside to the limo that picked me up to take me to rehab. The guy that picked me up was like, hey, like your arm doesn't look too good, like we should probably take you to the ER. I had this massive abscess on my left arm. Went
Mm,
in there, they're like, yeah, you need to detox. When they're taking me to detox, I almost passed out in the wheelchair, and the nurse was like, we're going to take you to ICU because you might lose your left arm.
oh, man.
So I went through this process of them like extracting all of this junk out of my arm that was painful, and then like stuffing this gauze and like all this junk into my arm to try to save it, which I still have my arm. So it worked and everything, but it was very traumatic because I couldn't be on any pain meds. I had to endure the pain. And on top of that, like I was still just getting off of drugs.
Mm,
And then I went to detox for a little bit. After detox, they took me to the rehab, and that's when I started to have to face myself and my thoughts and everything. But I was still in the position where I just wanted to blame everyone and everything for my addiction. I did not know how to take personal responsibility whatsoever.
mm,
So I know that you were asking, like, is this my first stint? Like, this is my first of 12, but uh, just to get cut to the point, none of those rehabs, I was not open to any of the suggestions that they were trying to make. You know, I went to like religious rehabs, like a Christian rehab, and then I went to like an all women's rehab, and then I went to a 12 step, and then the last one that I went to is called Recovery Unplugged in Austin, Texas, where it's like a music based program.
Mhm.
And none of that stuff worked for me. Like, I went to therapists. I've gone to so many psych wards as a result of psychosis and all these things that I put myself through, and therapists and psychiatrists and antidepressants and anxiety medications, and none of that stuff worked.
Mm.
After 3 years or 2 or 3 years of going in and out of rehab, the last one that I went to at Recovery Unplugged, they send us to 12-step Alcoholics Anonymous meeting.
Mm.
And that is whenever I started to attain true physical and emotional sobriety.
Mm. Now, someone asked a limo. You don't have to. I mean, unless you want to touch on that. But when you said limo, I said, "What did you went to? What was that? Betty Ford or something? Did they send in limo?"
You know what, dude? Like, I don't even remember the name of the place.
Oh
All
wow!
I remember is the dude. There was a dude in the suit. He's like, "I've been here waiting for you for like an hour," and he
Mm.
opened the door, and I went in there. I mean, like, let me just say this: like, I am still cleaning up the wreckage of my past. I have about $60,000 in medical debt from rehabs that I still need to make restitution on. So
Mm.
it's not like this. It's like I'm literally still gonna have to pay the price for my mistakes.
Mm.
In addition to that, like, there's, God knows, like, I have credit card debt and all kinds of other things that I have to take care of. But it's okay. It's like one day at a time, right?
Right, right.
One foot in
And
front of the other. I can't.
and
Yeah.
no, I was gonna say that in what people sometimes fail to realize is that how much our addiction can really cost us, and
Yeah.
how much we, obviously when we're in it, we're not necessarily looking at like, oh, okay, I got this credit card, let me go max it out, or do whatever, or do things, and then it's like, okay, well, now that I'm no longer in heavy into addiction, it's like I still got these debts, and that was something that, once I got sober, it was like, well, hey, these bills are still here and I still have to pay them. So how am I going to do it? And then I was married. So it was like, okay, everything was in my name, despite the fact that somebody else was running up the credit. So it's like, and I let it go on while I was drinking.
Yeah.
But I guess as being adults, we have to be responsible, even if our lives are definitely different, we still have to be responsible for that period in time when we were, irresponsible.
Yeah, we definitely do. What I've noticed in addiction is that it was always about the immediate gratification. There
Hmm.
was never any questioning behind any of the thing that I did in that moment. It was like, okay, does this feel good right now? Is this what I want? All right, cool, let's go. Now it's like, okay, I base my life on the 12 steps and the principles. And on the 9th step, it says that we need to make amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Amends not only includes making amends to people that we've harmed along the way, but it also includes financial amends. And the first virtue of the 12 steps is honesty. So I can't just be like, okay, I've been sober for 3 years. Aren't you guys proud of me? Let's just go ahead and erase all of the mistakes that I've made in my last 25 years because it doesn't count because I'm a good person now, right?
Right.
No, dude, it's like, that's not the way that it is. And sometimes, like, if I allow my thoughts to fully encapsulate me in the moment, like, I can start to get really overwhelmed about all the things that I feel like my higher power wants me to do. But the thing is, like in those moments, I'm like, God, direct my thinking. What is it that you would have me be in this moment? What can I do right now? And take that next step in what I can do in this moment, rather than looking at my entire life and feeling like I need to fix this and I need to fix it right now.
Mm. Now, so let's you did rehab.
Mm-hmm.
Um, are you actively involved in AA? I know you mentioned that. Is that something that you
Yeah.
that you actually followed through with that?
Yeah, I do. You know, I've been going to AA meetings for what, 3 years now. So I'm actively involved. Like I have two home groups. Ever since, Zoom came along, like I have my home group in Austin, Texas, which is on Zoom. And then I also have my in-person meeting here in San Antonio. It's important. Like Zoom for a really long time was the only option for people that were doing the 12-step meetings because of the virus that shall not be named. But now that we are kind of like getting back into the swing of things, I feel like it's so important for me to be in in-person meetings
Mhm.
for accountability, to also be a hand when like someone new comes into AA that is asking for help, to be a sponsor, to be a guide, to show them how to do these steps and how to get back in alignment with who they truly are, and let go of this whole identification as like an addict or an alcoholic. Because like for me, like I don't identify myself as an addict or an alcoholic. Like that's who my false self was. But with that said, that doesn't mean that I can use any type of mind altering substances at all. Because since I crossed that invisible line of like from not being an addict to being like addicted to drugs, if I ingest like any type of drugs, then it starts off a spree, an obsession. So I can't ingest one drink. I cannot take any type of alcohol. I can't take NyQuil. I can't take any type of like, there's like these little tinctures and stuff that have like mushrooms in it, like for reishi and things like that for your immune system. And we have to be careful because those actually have alcohol in them. And there's like, and y'all that are watching too, like be careful. Like if you take allergy medicines and you like to go down like the homeopathic route, you have to make sure to get the ones that don't have alcohol, because a lot of them use alcohol to I can't think of the word, but basically to help with the medication, to deliver it properly. And like I can't do that. It's scary.
Yeah, I feel you because I'm kind of in that boat right now. Just at the fact that what's going on. Let me say some hellos, Jessica. She was just on my podcast on Saturday. Tammy O, hey bro, I need you on there as well. So reach out and to my brother Freddie and yeah, and my dude Southern Bread Fitness. He's got a good story too. He's gonna be on my podcast. I ain't told him yet, but he's gonna be a guest
Okay.
doing for veterans. But yeah, I second that because I have diabetes and they put me on anxiety pills and depressing pills and sleeping pills, and then I had a physical last month and the doctor was like, are you taking your meds? And I told him no. He was like, why? I said, because I don't want to be addicted to this stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, even though you guys are prescribing it and it's helping me, I mean, I'm taking my medication, like my A1C has improved just from the beginning of the year until now. And so I'm telling him, so he sent me for my last labs. He was like, oh yeah, go ahead and start taking your medication again. And I was like, nah, I will pass. I will definitely pass because I'm like, obviously I'm eating a whole lot better. I'm getting outside. Well, it's about to get cold here in Minnesota, but I've been outside a lot more, been a whole lot more active compared to that sticky weather that I had when I was living in Florida.
Yeah.
And so it's all a matter of, you know, what works for you. But I do agree, ladies and gentlemen, please read the labels. If your doctor's prescribing you something, make sure you tell them, hey, I don't, you know, I have an addiction or addictive personality, and maybe you shouldn't prescribe me this.
Hmm.
You know, and like I said, some doctors don't really care. They just want to say, hey, I want to give you these pills. But
Yeah.
oh yeah, I don't mess with NyQuil no more. And I believe that, you know, especially they probably were doing that in the field. He's talking about military stuff. Um but I'm sorry, I got off subject for just a second. Now 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 here it is, you know, okay, you know, you're obviously you practicing like the holistic, and that's totally fine in terms of certain things. Now Now, what are some like activities that you've done now that you may have been difficult you had difficulties doing when you were still actively in addiction? So what are some things now that you're doing to keep yourself busy?
Yeah, those are awesome questions. You know, it's crazy because at the beginning of my sobriety in so I got sober August 8th of 2019, right? I was 300 pounds.
Hmm.
So, and I had like arthritis and fibromyalgia, and I had like a lot of swelling happening. Like I had so much physical pain and stuff that was going on for me. But like once I physically detoxed, and made a decision, like I'm getting off of all these anti-anxiety medications, I'm getting off of the antidepressants and all these other medications my doctor had put me on. Once I physically detoxed from all of that, my sponsor was like, you just need to move, you know, you need to start exercising. And being 300 pounds, it's like, damn it, dude, like that's the last thing that I wanted to do. It was because it was difficult, it was painful. But I knew that if I continued to do the same thing that I had always done, which was like take the easy way out in life, that I was just going to stay in the same spot. So first it started off with like getting a part-time job, for forcing myself to like walk to the bus because I didn't have a vehicle, walk around, be outside. I started to get out into nature, and I
Mm.
started to go hiking, and just honestly, like a lot of the times I was just being of service within AA. So like they would have functions and parties and things, so I would help with organizing, getting outside of myself. Eventually I had got to the point where I would like take 12-step meetings to rehabs and to detoxes and talk to people about my story.
Mm.
um, a lot of other things that I like to do, painting.
Okay.
Painting is fun. Like I've learned to spend more time with myself
Mm.
as I've been sober. Like I realized at the beginning of my sobriety in my entire life that I always felt like I needed to connect with another person and be in other people's presence in order to be happy. And I've realized in my sobriety that I need to learn to be in my own presence,
Mm.
be happy with myself. So I've learned to meditate. Um, I've been reading like so much stuff. Like look at all these books, you guys. Like I have a ton of books. I mean, like that.
You need, hey, while you playing, you need to add 12 Faces of Sober to that
I
bookshelf.
know. I was hearing you talk about that at the beginning of the broadcast. I was like, I need to get that book already.
For
So
sure, for sure.
yeah.
We'll we'll work some things out here.
Okay.
But no, but see, the reason why I'm asking those questions is because, you know, a lot of people, and I've seen it on various pages, so it's not just one or the
Hmm.
other, but I've seen, you know, people say like, oh, you know, they'll go to functions and then they'll be like, you know, hey, I don't drink, and then they'll be like, well, you know, being sober should be boring. You
Oh,
just mentioned good things. You know what I'm saying? You're actually out there giving, you know, doing service. You're introducing the 12-step program in various locations. You're painting. You know, it's almost like within sobriety, it's like you have to get to know yourself again. You know,
yeah.
you have to, protect yourself at all costs, obviously,
Hmm.
but you know, you can't you know, you can't do some of the same things that you did while you were actively in addiction.
Yeah.
And, you know, and there's nothing wrong with it. I know some people, because I mean, I don't, I've learned to be by myself, you know what I'm saying? Just throughout my sobriety. Well, except for when I was in grad school, that was the first couple of years, you know, 17 and 18. But, you know, now, you know, I'm most of the time I'm alone, and I've had to, you know, figure out, okay, well, I'm alone. What am I going to do? All
Yeah.
right, well, let's do some podcasts. Let's get some interviews in.
Yes.
Let's get outside.
Uh-huh.
Let's, you know, try to create stuff for my
Mhm.
brand, you know. So it's that to me is and it's good to hear it come out, you know, come out of your mouth, because it's like you're you're letting people know that, okay, hey, I was actively, you know, heavy into drugs, heavy into alcohol. I'm now sober and I'm clean and sober, but I can still live. I can still have fun. I can still do things that I might not have enjoyed doing prior.
Yeah.
And now, but it's a new, you know, it's new hobbies that you
Right.
could just sit there and vibe out to, read books, do paintings. You know, I wish I knew how to paint, but it is therapeutic. I've done
Yeah.
some paintings, but I won't like try to go sell them or anything like that. But it is therapy,
It
and
is.
and that's what, you know, honestly, what it is, ladies and gentlemen, is to be able to find things that you enjoy doing, and you know, if it's something that someone would probably make fun of you of, be like, hey, it's keeping me away from doing drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that to me is what's most important. And
Hmm.
so how has it been for you navigating through this sober community?
Through the sober community, like online or like in person or just in general, like both of them?
Just, I mean, I asked that question because, you know, you, I asked that question because, it's, you know, it's a combination of both. I mean, it's more or less like, you know, the sober community is clearly growing, you know, and it's starting to grow for Black and brown people especially. And I'm going to touch on that in just a second. But I just think that, you know, the all of our experiences are different. I know that when I first started, I just looked, I just scrolled, oh, okay, somebody's anniversary. Okay, cool. Somebody's struggling today. Someone got 5 days and they went back to day zero or day one. And so it's kind of one of those things where, you know, I didn't think that I would still be in the sober community.
Yeah.
It's almost six, you know, I've been kind of following it like the last like three and a half years or so.
Uh-huh.
But I love it. I love it because of the fact that like I get a chance to speak to people like you, share amazing stories. I know I take tips from, you know, what people are sharing because I want to see if it works for me. And
Hmm.
if it doesn't, then I'll be like, all right, well, someone recommended this. You might want to try it. I just
Yeah.
won't do it, but you should try it. So how has it been for you?
Yeah, so it's interesting that you bring that up because I'd say the first couple of years of being in the sober community, I had only been in the sober community like in person, like in the 12-step meetings and stuff like that. So I'd go to meetings and I'd connect with people there. And then it was like I went home and that was it, you know. But a couple of years ago, I had decided to start my YouTube channel that's called The Sobriety Playbook. And I had no earthly idea that there was even a sober community online. I had no idea. Like when I started my channel, I didn't look up online to see if there was other sober YouTube people. I was just like, okay, I feel like this is what my higher power wants me to do. I'm going to create this channel. So not until about a year ago did I even like start to get on Instagram and post my stuff. My Instagram account used to be called just something else. And then I changed it to the Sobriety Playbook about a year ago. And then just a couple of months ago, I started to upload like my YouTube videos there. And then recently I was talking to my best friend that came into town from Austin. And I was like, you know what? Like, I really feel now that I know like there's a sober community out there, like online, on Instagram, on YouTube and TikTok and all this stuff, that I should start collaborating with other people because so far on my YouTube channel, it's been just like a one-man show aside from like two collaborations. Yeah, 2 collaborations, and that's it. I was like, you know what, like, I think my subscribers would really benefit from hearing from other people's perspective. And so I started to, about a month ago, when I started to follow you, I started to look up some other people on Instagram, and I started following them and then commenting and, you know, like putting mindful comments, like really interacting with people. And I feel like this community is so amazing. There's just so much support out there for people that are newly sober and for people that have been sober for a while. So it's just such an amazing gift to be here with you today and to have this community of people, because, you know, our addictive mind or personality or whatever wants us to think that we're alone and that we have to do this alone. But it's about staying sober and staying clean together.
I'm just typing. I did it wrong, so I want to make sure that I put it in here correctly on the on here so that people can follow your content. Make sure I typed it right. Sobriety playbook. All right, yeah, because I don't want them following the wrong page and it's not you. Well,
yeah, my handle is the Sobriety Playbook on TikTok and Instagram and Spotify and YouTube, so it's all the same. Thank you.
And then we're getting close to the end of the podcast, but I wanted to ask a couple questions because I think it's something that needs to be addressed within the sober community. Mm-hmm. The challenges that Black and brown face when it comes to drugs and alcohol. Mm. I know that's not a question, but more or less of a statement, because I grew up in San Diego, California. I grew up in a neighborhood where I was the only Black person on the block. I was the only Black person in my elementary school, at least in my grade. And middle school, I went to a different city, and the number of Black students only increased by maybe 9 or 10. High school, a few schools I went to, there was like 15. And, but one thing I did notice that was in those communities, and I grew up in a predominantly Hispanic neighborhood, was just like it would be in a Black neighborhood. A lot of liquor stores. Some of them would be on all 4 corners. And, drugs are prevalent. And the reason why I bring that up is because in some households where we don't really have that sit down conversation like we should about addiction and how it can basically either kill you, have you in jail, losing everything, or losing yourself, your mind, and you're just walking out on the streets. Yeah. And so to me, it's really important. And that's why I felt like I needed to get out here and just speak my mind and let people know, like, hey, there are Black people out here that are sober. There are people that are really taking this serious, that have had, true results by just giving up the substance. And, but there's more to be done. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think that it will get done, because there's good people like yourself that's on here that's sharing the truth, things that you went through, things that you faced and seen. Because guess what? When we was in our 20s, was there somebody telling us?
Nope.
You know what I'm saying? So here it is. We're in our 40s.
Yeah.
No, as OGs now to some, but we're out here and we're sharing, like, hey, keep on, keep on, just like you said right there. He touched on it. Just started and was wondering, are there any people? And there are. You just got to find them. you got to find them, and when you do find them, reach out to them. That's the message. You know, if you do find you follow you see somebody on there, please reach out to them. Even if you don't talk to them ever again, just reach out to them for the content, because we exist. But like I said, we have to collaborate like we're doing, and be able to lend the support or the resources.
Right.
But I'm sorry, you didn't answer the question. Go ahead. It's on you. I'm sorry. I'm going to tangent.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought it up. You know, like, even
Take the microphone. Hold on. Go closer. Yeah,
hold
that's
on.
close. Okay.
Wow, now, you know, like, so what, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
You know, I grew up in like a middle class type community and everything. I wasn't poor or anything like that, but it was interesting. It was like the house that I lived in was not in the best neighborhood, but my parents were good people and they taught me good things, you know. But the people that are in my neighborhood, like when I go back to where I grew up, it's, the neighborhood isn't good. Like it's obvious there's drug dealers, there's drug dealings happening, there's a lot of places to get alcohol, there's a lot of people that are suffering from addiction and are just stuck in this lower like dimensional reality and have no earthly idea that they can even escape it. I feel like it's I feel like it's a responsibility, to be quite honest, for me to speak about the things that I have gone through and to share the wisdom that I have attained through the pain and the suffering that I have endured over 25 years of addiction. It's like, how is it helpful to the world and to other people that are going through addiction and trauma and all of these things if I am just going to look at my 25 years and say, oh, cool, thanks. I'm out of my addiction now. Let me move on with my life. It's like, no, there's a reason why I went through all of this stuff. And it's my responsibility to align with God and allow him to work through me and speak through me and do whatever it is that he wants to do, so that I could speak about my experiences so that people know that they're not alone. It's just, you know, I didn't create my YouTube channel and I didn't change my handle on Instagram and I didn't create my TikTok because I want followers. I'm not even monetized. And quite honestly, I'm like, it doesn't matter. I still create content and I still upload every Monday and Wednesday at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, because if that video reaches one person that is feeling hopeless and they have no idea which way to turn and they have no idea that they can even escape this hell that is on earth through addiction, if I can reach that one person, then that's it.
The job is done for the day.
Yeah.
That's been my motto. You know, like to me, I've had, you know, and I'm not throwing shade, but I'm going to say it. Like I was on an interview and, you know, someone was like, well, I got this many. I'm like, that's cool. But it's more or less of the one-on-one interactions. Mm-hmm. How are you really interacting with those people that you follow? Yes. That's what's most important to me. Right. Is that, okay, can that person really, you know, shoot me a message and will I be able to respond within a timely manner, because they may actually need what type of, you know, advice I can give them. Mm-hmm. That to me is what's more important than anything in this world. Is that because, you know, yes, I had friends. Yes, I had family members that helped me out through some tough times. But I want to be able to help strangers, those that I do not know, that can reach out to me and be like, hey, Kenny, I need help with this. I'm struggling with this and that. And I should be able to answer those questions and be able to help and assist. Because like I said, there were times that I didn't have anybody to talk to or anybody to go to for that matter. But I still, you know, dealt with whatever issues and problems that I had. Yeah. So, but I don't know. Did I leave anything out? Because I don't want to you know, I don't want to feel like, you know what I mean, I'm rushing you off. I got nothing but time in the world, but I just wanted to make sure that, you know, because what I want you to do also too is make sure that when we finish this, that you text me everything. I mean, of course, I'm going to tag you,
Mhm.
but like text your information in terms like so when I put it
Yeah,
on other platforms, I can have all of that in the comment box and stuff. But
yeah, that's
so
great.
wait a minute, let me see. You got Mondays and Wednesdays,
Mhm.
9 p.m. Central Standard Time. You have the Sobriety Playbook. Does you got episodes? Am I correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
One thing that I did want to add, just for the people that have joined, and I thank you guys so much for being here on the live with us. Like, sobriety for me is about so much more than just like eliminating the mind altering substances, the drugs, the alcohol, the addictive behaviors, the overeating, and all those things that deter us from our path. But like, as soon as like we get detoxed physically from those mind altering substances, one of the purposes of my channel is to help people to develop game-changing awareness so that they can become the person that their higher power created them to be. And so a lot of the content that I have on my YouTube channel is based on books. I have different series and books. If you guys are into any of the 12-step stuff, I have readings on the Big Book, on Awakening. I have recordings so that you can listen to those meditations in the morning. I also do like the daily reflections. It's just like a meditation that you can reflect on throughout the day. I also have a series that's called Jesus Calling. So if you're into Jesus and the Bible and stuff, that's cool. Um, I don't know if you guys have you ever heard of Dr. Billy Alls Brooks, by the way?
I haven't.
Okay, so he's one of my teachers. He's a motivational speaker, and I have this series that's called Blessed and Unstoppable. And the first episode of that series is how to detox emotionally. So if you
Mm.
guys are like dealing with any resentment, any fear, any anxiety, or any type of baggage that you have brought into your like addiction life, like into this sober life, or you're trying to get sober and you have like all this anger and frustration and don't know how to release it, please check out the series called Blessed and Unstoppable. It's awesome because I am reading directly from the book. So if you don't have it, it's no big deal. Like I'm reading in there, there's like positive affirmations for the day, there's prayers for the day, there's assessment questions. It's like everything is laid out at your feet. So if you're interested and you're willing to do the work to completely just detox emotionally, I'm there for you. And if you have any questions, please put them in the comments, and I always get back to my subscribers.
And then usually how I conclude my shows is, if you can bless 12 Faces of Sober Speaks podcast,
Mm-hmm.
or anybody out here listening, if you can leave us with some good words that may be able to help those that are still struggling, those that are early in sobriety, that's questioning, or just let's close this out with something good. That's how I like to do my shows.
Okay. Well, I really appreciate you having me on the show first and foremost, and for everything that has been, everyone that's been interactive on this live. Although I can't see your comments, I can see who's joined and everything.
Oh,
Um,
you can't see the comments?
I
Oh, wow.
can't.
I thought you could see
I
this.
could see them for a while, and then all of a sudden it just stopped.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, but what I would like to say is that if there's anybody that is on this live right now that doesn't know if sobriety is good for them, this is Sober October.
Mm.
So this month, if you're up for the challenge of just looking at this like one day at a time and being sober for the month, you can check it out. There's like so much support. You can always DM one of us if you have any questions. You know, I thought that whenever I got sober, that I was going to lose my sovereignty. Like I was going to be faced with like a glum life, like things were going to be boring. But there's just so much joy that I have been able to attain from being in service to other people. After I've detoxed from like alcohol and drugs, I've had so much clarity. And I've just started to experience a life that I never thought that I could. Like, I never realized that addiction took so much stuff away from me. And I felt like I was emotionally bankrupt. The longer that I stay sober, I start to feel like I'm gaining the riches that my higher power wants me to have. There's a lot of hope. There's a way out, and there's a way to change your thinking from this victim mentality to a mentality of abundance, to a mentality of hope. There's a lot of work to do, but don't allow yourself to get frustrated by all the things that you want to change. You know, sometimes people say, this is a one day at a time deal. But for me, it started off as a 1 second at a time thing, and then 1 minute, and then 1 hour, and then into a day. And then the days turned into months, and now it's been 3 years. So just know that you're not alone on this path. Don't believe the lies that your addictive mind tries to tell you. We're here for you.
Right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this concludes another wonderful episode of 12 Faces of Sober Speaks podcast. I am forever thankful to have Michelle on here as a guest, share her wonderful story of, you know, some interesting things. But what's most important is she got the help that she needed. She got clean and sober. And now life looks a whole lot better. And that's what I like to see. And that's what brings a smile to my face, is to hear that and to be able to know that there's someone else out here that's walking the same path as me. Might be a little bit different, but I like different. And that's what it's all about, is hearing different sober stories or clean stories of how life is today. We might have, we've all been through some hellish situations, but what we're doing today is what's most important. So, like I said, tune in. I'm going live again tomorrow. So episode 60 is going on tomorrow night, ladies and gentlemen. I am truly retired and I love doing this. So keep me busy. If you know some people who want to jump on the podcast and share a story, tag them. Tell them to, DM me. I will be more than happy to have you on my show. But like I said, we're gonna wrap this up. I'm gonna go ahead and eat me some lunch. Hope you guys ate something while we were talking. But like I said, 12 Phases of Sober is gonna continue. Michelle, I wish you nothing but success as you continue to navigate through it and enjoy life. You know what I'm saying? And just keep it up. And we'll definitely keep in touch. And like I said, I have another project that I'm working on, so I may have you come on and be able to share on that platform as well.
I'd be happy to. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you again. You have a wonderful rest of your day and a very blessed week.
Thank you.
But this is 12 Faces of Sober. You guys be blessed. Take care.